Hello everyone. I welcome you all in Vidushi Vision. I will be coming with many videos on history of India and Indian national movement where I will be completing ancient, medieval and modern history. So today I'm here with my first topic from ancient history of India, sources of ancient Indian history. So let us move ahead. In this video, I will be completing the topic Sources of Ancient Indian History, where I will be discussing the nomenclature of India and about all the types of sources. We are going to talk about ancient Indian history. So, what is the nomenclature of India? The nomenclature of India. India has been called with different names such as Bharat, Hindustan, Aryavat, which is Aryan race, and Jambudweep, which is known as Berry Island also. The name of India is derived from the river Indus. Indus was known as Sindhu in the time of Darius I, the Persian emperor. So when in 518 Darius I came to India, he conquered the area around the river Sindhu, and due to some difficulty in pronouncing the initial word S, he turned the river Sindhu into Hindu. So when later the Greeks they came to India, they turned the river Hindu into Indus. So from there Indus got its name, and from Indus India name is derived. If we talk about how Bharat name was popular, actually the name Bharat was used for a group of people who used to live in the northwest area, and they were mentioned in Rig Veda as Bharatvanshi. In Rig Veda, the word Bharat indicates about the tribe, but later on it refers to the legendary emperor Bharat, the founder of the Bharat dynasty. So this was all about the nomenclature of India. Let us discuss about some types of sources. There are three types of sources: archaeological sources, literary sources, and accounts of foreign historians and travelers. So now we will be discussing these three categories one by one. Archaeological sources. They are categorized into four categories: inscriptions, numismatic evidence, ruined cities and monuments, and the last one is artifacts. Let us talk about them in slight detail. Inscriptions. Okay, just think and tell me in the comment section, what is the study of inscription called? I'm giving you 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you know the answer, that's great. Otherwise, the study of inscription is called epigraphy. But what were inscriptions? They were basically the most authentic sources of ancient Indian history, and they were inscribed on stones, on metals. They were written in very different languages such as Pali, Prakrit, Sanskrit, Tamil, Telugu, etc. And it has been noticed that there are two types of scripts which were in practice in writing inscription. They were Brahmi and Kharoshthi. The discovered inscriptions by archaeologists are also categorized as official and private. Officials one were basically which belonged to monarchs and kingdom, and private were basically some religious inscriptions like that. Alright, let us talk about numismatic evidence. Okay, now tell me in the comment section, what is the branch of history which studies coins is called? 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So the answer is numismatics. It is the study of coins. It is a branch of history which studies coins. And if we talk about numismatic evidence, they were considered as the second most important source of reconstructing the India about its past history. The first being was inscription and the second are these coins. Coins in the period prior to Alexander's invention are generally categorized into two types. First was the Indo-Greek and second one was the punched mark coins. Punched mark coins, they were the earliest coins of India and they bear only symbol on them. Each symbol is punched separately, and the coins of copper, silver and gold, they were the coins which were issued by Indo-Greeks, and they were really they were showing the artistic excellence, and they were very popular during those period of time, especially in the time of Mauryan and Guptas. So let us talk about the ruined cities and monuments. The most important aspect of archaeological sources is the large number of excavated ruined cities wherein lie a large number of monuments. So basically there are some cities, and in those cities there are large number of monuments which are really very helpful for the purpose of archaeological studies. The important excavated cities and towns of ancient India are like Bihar, some part of Bihar such as Nalanda, Bodh Gaya, and in Bengal there are some part like Koti, Varsha and Mahasthana. In Punjab like Takshila and Peshawar. In Madhya Pradesh, Ujjain, Sachi, Padmavati, Vidisha. In Rajasthan there are some parts like Sambhar, Bairat. In Gujarat there are some parts like Amreli and Patan. And in Andhra Pradesh, Amravati, in Madhya Pradesh, Virampatnam, Uttar Pradesh include some parts like Varanasi, Mathura, Kaushambi, Hastinapur, in Kashmir also. So these cities, they were very helpful because a large number of monuments were excavated, and these ruined cities were basically important, and lots of information is gathered from these places. So the last, if I talk about, they are the artifacts. Artifacts are basically some materials such as some pillars, some pottery, some seals. They were also very helpful in telling about what were the things which were excavated during those period of time, what were their writings, what were their language, and these things also tell us about the culture of the people during those period of time. So this is all about in archaeological sources. So now let us talk something about literary sources also. Literary sources. Literary sources, they are divided into three main parts: socio-religious scriptures, secular literature and philosophy, and the last is historical writings. We will be discussing about them in more detail in my coming videos, where I will be talking about modern period, Gupta age, Sangam age. So there I will be covering all these topics in more detail. But here I will try to give you a slight brief idea about all these categories, so that if you don't know about anything about your past, you will be little bit familiar about these terms and about the culture of ancient India. So let us discuss about socio-religious scriptures. They were categorized into three categories. So these three categories includes Hindu texts, Buddhist literature and Jain literature. So Hindu texts, they are they are the religious texts such as the Vedas, which are divided into Rig Veda, Sham Veda, Yajur and Atharvaveda. The Brahmanas, the Aryankas, the Upanishads, which include 108 Upanishads, the Vedangas, and the Smritis, and the Upvedas, the epics, which includes Mahabharata and Ramayana, the Puranas, and the Shad Darshanas, where we talk about the six schools of Indian philosophy. I will not go in detail. I'm just giving you a slight idea about the literary sources. These Hindu texts, they are categorized under socio-religious scriptures of literary sources. Alright, I will be talking about them in detail in my coming lectures. Next, Buddhist literature. I will not talk much in details. Tripitakas and many Buddhist literature includes the life story of Gautam Buddha and the culture and the religious practices during that period of time. Gautam Buddha, he was from Mauryan era, and so most of the text and most of the literature of Buddha, they are basically on the Chandragupta Maurya and his culture. Next is the Jain literature, which includes the Kalp Sutra, Bhagavati Sutra, and many other texts of Jain period. I will be talking about Buddha and Jainism in my coming lecture. So let us move ahead with the next type, which is secular literature and philosophy. So the first type is Kautilya's work related to political economy. The famous work Arthashastra, written by him, is the most authentic information on all the fundamental aspects of the structure of the Mauryan Empire, and it gives a detailed account of politico-economic and religious life of Mauryas. We will be talking about this in detail when I will be discussing Mauryan age with you. Next is drama. There were very famous dramas during those period of time by Kalidas and many other authors. Next is biographies. Biographies biographies were basically some glimpse of private life and work of the famous period during those period of time, which includes Gautam Buddha and many other famous people like Chandragupta Maurya, since we are talking about ancient history. So these biographies were on these famous emperors. Next is secular philosophy. Secular philosophy includes the theory of dialectics, which is preached by Gautam Buddha, and the philosophy of relativity, which is formulated by the great Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna, and these were the things which we will be discussing in Buddhism also. Next is Sangam literature. Sangam literature is basically the literature of the Tamils. So when I will talk about South history, And when I will discuss Sangam age with you, I will be definitely discussing this Sangam literature. Let us move ahead with our next category, which is historical writings. Historical writings are categorized into two types: individual historians and the local dynastic chronicles. So, individual historians, there were many historians. The most important one, which is very popular, is the Raja Taranjini, written in the verse by Kalhana. And this verse was the written record of Kashmir, and this was very popular individual writings during those period of time. And the next is the local dynastic chronicles. There were many local chronicles which were popular all over the India, especially they were found in the northern part. So if I talk about Gujarat, there were many chronicles like Rasmala and Samveshwara and Kirti Kaumundi and many more. Alright, so this was a slight detail about the literary sources. Basically, you should know that literary sources are categorized in three categories, which are socio-religious scriptures, secular literature and philosophy, and historical writings. And what all I had discussed, I will be discussing it again in my coming lectures. So let us move to our third category, which is the account of foreign historians and travelers. Accounts of foreign historians and travelers. Movements of traders, pilgrims, travelers, etc. have been quite persistent since early times, and thus many foreign accounts of this period too exist. The account of foreign historians and travelers are valuable source materials for the reconstruction of ancient Indian history. The Greeks, Romans, Chinese and Muslims, they travel India extensively, and of foreign historians and travelers are a fusion of personal observations and their hearsay stories. So Fahim, he was very famous Chinese traveler who traveled India, and he even wrote a famous book on the records of Buddhists. And the next was the Hyun Sung, who wrote a book called Siyuki, which was the record of Western world. So these travelers were very popular because they came to India and they wrote their own personal observations. So it also helps us to understand about the ancient history of India. Marco Polo, Ibn Battuta. I'll be discussing about Ibn Battuta when I'll discuss medieval history, because he was a Moroccan traveler. He came during the time of Tughlaq dynasty. So I will be discussing Tughlaq dynasty in medieval history. Uh, Marco Polo, he was also very popular foreign historian and traveler. And the last is Megasthenes. His famous work Indica gives us a valuable account of Indian state and society in modern era. So he was also very popular because of his book Indica, and which contains lots of information about modern empire. So this was all about the sources of ancient Indian history. I will be discussing about many more topics on ancient history in my coming lectures. So till that time, take care, stay safe, and goodbye.